Do you tend to live small because you're afraid of not doing well or not getting things right? If a fear of failure or worries about how others might perceive you keep you from reaching high and becoming your best self, you're certainly not alone. As a clinical psychologist, I've found that many people stay stuck because they don't trust their ability to overcome challenges, perform well under pressure, and reach for the stars. So if you'd like to break free from whatever holds you back, you'll love today's guest, JD Trembley. JD is a certified neuropath practitioner, ultra endurance athlete, and Director of High Performance and Mental Resilience at Hungry Warrior Academy. Today, JD will offer tips that will help you excel in all areas of your life. Today, we'll focus on this listener's real-life question. I don't like getting outside my box because I get anxious. I get really stuck and fearful when I try something new. This affects me at home, work, and even in my hobbies like soccer. Everyone I know is moving on and doing cool things. Can you help me get unstuck? And with that question as the focus of today's episode, I'm Dr. Carla Marie Manley, and this is Imperfect Love.
Welcome to Imperfect Love with Dr. Carla Marie Manley, psychologist, author, and relationship expert. I'm here to help unravel mysteries and misconceptions about love, relationships, and mental health issues, plus everything in between. Love is complicated, people are imperfect, and relationships surely can be tough. Together, we'll navigate this messy, imperfect space of real life.
Please note, as this episode may contain sensitive information, listener discretion is advised. If you'd like further information, please see the links in the show notes. And today, I am so excited to bring to you JD Trembley. JD is a certified neuropath practitioner, ultra-endurance triathlete, and the Director of High Performance and Mental Resilience at Hungry Warrior Academy. Welcome to the podcast, JD. It's such a joy to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Carla, for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, before we launch into this listener's very, very wonderful question, because I think probably everyone can see a bit of themselves in it at some time in life, can you tell our listeners what makes you you?
It makes me there's nothing special about JD. I understand that I have achieved some wonderful feat, and they are around the internet everywhere. What makes me me is that I have courage. In spite of fear, I am able to perform certain tasks, and I'm willing to sacrifice the idea of not doing the things that I want to do, which is staying in comfort, in spite of leading and becoming the leader that I was called to be.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And okay, you're saying you're not special. I mean, you're a triathlete and not just any triathlete. You are an endurance triathlete. You have been a volunteer firefighter. You really work to empower people to become their best selves and move through their fears, which is one of my favorite topics, learning to move through our fears so we can get on the other side and enjoy ourselves and our lives. So you sound pretty special to me. So I like also that you're humble. So can you tell our listeners maybe a little bit about your journey?
For sure. I grew up in the northern part of Quebec, Canada, French province. You might have guessed that by the accent. And I was bullied as a child by all the other kids. And then at the age of 14 years old, I my parents got divorced. And so that took a toll on the family unit. I would say that I had different homes. And by the age of 17 years old, I made the difficult decision to join the military and remove myself from the family homes, as I said, and even from all of the acquaintances that I had, or even my culture, so to speak, because I am French Canadian. And when you join the military, the culture is speaking English mainly. I was not in my province. I was away from my parents and away from all of these people. But instead of seeing it as well, I'm a victim and I will stay in that mindset, the way I look at it is that I removed myself from unhealthy behaviors, which my parents they were just finding their own journey. The way I can frame it is that I was able to now distance myself from loved ones. And really, I was able to also have a critical aspect of how I would look at my relationship was with my family or my relationships with others. Now, they were bullying me. I removed myself from this environment. And now the critics of others does not affect me as much. And so it became somewhat of a stepping stone, or I, instead of using it as a hole that I could have crawled into and stay in comfort, I used it somewhat of as a trampoline to propel me to another stage. And the advice that now I provide the guys with our tools and our acronyms at the Hungry Warrior Academy is to live in faith and not in fear, regardless of your religious background. You're able to, again, make some faith decision versus some fear decisional.
Beautifully said. And you're reminding me of my first book, Joy from Fear, where I talk about the importance of looking at when fear is constructive, like when it's telling us, hey, there's a lion chasing you, and when fear is destructive, when it's giving you messages that you're not safe, that you should stay small, you should go into that hole. And when we learn to lean into fear rather than running from it, of course, we want to run if there's truly a bully that's going to kill us. We want to run. But when we learn that so many of our fears are these limitations placed on us by other people or limitations we place on ourselves, when we learn, as you said at the beginning, that you found the courage to stand up and move through those. It's just, and I also love the part where you said you use it as a trampoline, that instead of letting the bullying make you small, you decided to use it as a way to bounce into a part of yourself in your life that could allow you to grow and blossom. So, wow, what a great place to start. Because it sounds like it really takes us straight to that listener's question, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's different ways to approach it. The way I frame it is if there's a negative stimuli in your life, you have three ways of operating within it. And one of them is from a negative going to a negative. So some people choose that path where you have a negative stimuli. Parents got divorced. I could have ended up with, well, just I'm going to drink, which drinking alcohol is an unhealthy behavior to a certain degree if there's a lack of self control. And so now you're having a negative going to a negative. And that's the easy path. That's the comfortable path. But then if I go from a negative to a positive, which a lot of people or a lot of coaches would say, they would claim, well, how about you change this positive and turn this negative stimuli into a positive? Well, if we look at science, it takes a lot to change the charge of one versus the other, or it takes some form of catalyst to bring it to the positive, which is very difficult. And so when you're changing a negative and transferring it to a constructive, as you mentioned, now you're helping it grow gradually to become that new individual that you aspire to become.
So beautifully said. And I also like the piece where I know we're not quite getting to that listener's question yet, but I like the piece that you talk about faith. Because as soon as we hear the word faith, many of us think, oh no, or oh yes, whatever our propensity is for, religious beliefs. It's like, oh no, I don't believe in religion, or oh yes, it sounds like right up my alley. But in truth, as you said, faith is not about necessarily being religious or spiritual. It is about believing in yourself. It's about believing that there may be at least one or two people out there to support you, and there are generally more than you think. That faith. And there's also faith that there's something beyond us. You can have that kind of faith, whether it's religious, spiritual, or science based. There is something like gravity in a strange way. It does support us, it keeps us on the earth. So when we think about faith as a way to foster belief, it can be such a powerful and underutilized tool to realize it's not stupid to have faith. It's not blind. It is that belief that we are worthy. What do you think about that? And I think it goes beyond worthiness. What do you
For
think?
sure.
What do you think?
Well, the way faith that was structuring it was not necessarily in terms of metaphysical or even the spiritual aspect, but it's still within that realm. Because again, having faith, the definition of it is the belief that is not seen. That's what the definition of faith is. And so, one person that says, I will become a millionaire, but they just went through bankruptcy. And so having that faith that you will overcome these challenges, that in itself is a faith. And so you brought in a lot of variables to that word faith, where you brought in faith to ourselves, faith in the others that are around us, faith in the divine. And so it's having faith is the belief that is not seen. And that comes from hope. And having a hope is, again, away from fear. You can't have faith and fear in the same room. You must choose. And it becomes a choice. At first, it is a choice. And then eventually, it will become more natural. So we're not talking about someone who wakes up in the morning and says, oh, should I put the left foot in front of the right foot? Or should I start the day with the right foot and then the left and then always constantly thinking about each steps of the way. We're talking about general ideas. Should I be working on myself for nutritional patterns, or should I be working out? What should I be focusing on? Should I have discipline in my life? And then again, that word is a stigma for a lot of people, a trigger word where it's discipline. And we can talk about that. That's where we will answer the question to the listener is how to view discipline. But again, those are all ways to act in faith. Should I sell my house and move to Jamaica? That's huge in terms of faith. And so what is your capacity in terms of faith? What are you able to handle in terms of faith? And you should not be handling that faith lightly to everyone. Not everyone is there for your success. Not everyone is there to help you, but you should understand and have a certain level of discernment to have faith. And you can either choose to live in faith or live in fear. So now if you understand fear and the 6 levels of fear that are explained in the book from Napoleon Hill, it's Think Rich, Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. The 6 levels of fear are poverty, old age, loss of love, illness, criticism, and then death. Well, what is your fear in that instance? So, fear, many people look at it from the perspective of a feeling. And I look at it from the engineering brain of mine. I look at it from the emotional side. So in psychology, which you're familiar with it, I don't know if it's been explained very well in other podcasts of yours. It's the aspect of the emotion is the body reaction. So I am surprised. That's a body reaction. My pupils get dilated. I can calculate that. That's quantitative. My heart rate goes higher. That's quantitative. I can calculate that. So that's the emotion. Now that you're able to regulate it, that's called emotional maturity. Many people are unable to do that, and then they focus too much on the feelings component. The feelings component, the way I can explain it, it's an experience of life. But if you're numbing yourself, what you're doing is you're just removing these feelings. You're removing that experience, that juicy part of life, that whether or not it's a happy or a sad moment, it's okay. There are moments where I'm sad and I'm seeing my kid. He's right there. He's healthy. I'm just sad. That's it. It's an experience of life. And then there are other moments, which are more often than enough. I look at him and I'm like, I'm happy. Right? So those are feelings. This is an experience of life. I love him very much. That's part of life. But then the body reaction is what we can use to again overcome our fears. So going back to my childhood as an example for me, mine was criticism. So the critics of others, I was in with the letter C, was criticism. Well, people were bullying me. So now I learned how to remove that fear from myself. So now I can, well, speak on stage. I can be which is one of the biggest fear of people is, is talking openly in front of people, going on podcasts and guest speaking and workshops. Well, for me, that was removed as a child. I understood how to tackle that specific fear. So by learning, one, what is your specific fear in that particular instance? And then what is your emotional reaction, which is the body reaction to that fear? Then you can, again, it's still there. The fear of critics is still there for me, but my body is able to react differently at a much faster rate because I help regulate it.
It's really beautifully said, and I love how you break it down so that listeners can understand that we all have these emotions. Fear is one of, if I subscribe to the 5 emotion type, paradigm of emotions where it's fear, anger, sadness, joy, and disgust. That's the 5 emotion model. Those fears, listeners, those very basic emotions, we all have them. Fear is often one that's really working big time in us. Then, as JD is saying, those emotions are there. It's a bodily response designed on some level to keep you healthy and safe and out of danger. Each one of those has a capacity to do that. And then you have experiences in life that make you have certain feelings. And so, whereas a situation may make one person angry, that same situation may make somebody sad. So it's through our history, our experiences, outcome those feelings. And when we learn to process them and regulate them and not call them good or bad, but as you're saying, JD, if you just look at your son and go, oh, I'm sad right now. I don't necessarily need to figure this out. I just want to just be with the sadness. But we're so used to pushing away those emotions that we call negative emotions, although none of our emotions are negative. It's what we do with them that can be positive or negative. So being able to look, and as this listener's saying, they're saying, I feel really stuck. I feel really like everybody else is moving on with their lives and doing wonderful things, and I'm feeling really stuck. I'm sensing that maybe I'd like your opinion, JD, on this. It's maybe that there's some sadness there. Maybe there is a sense of fear there, big fear, that's keeping them stuck in what is comfortably uncomfortable instead of jumping on that trampoline and, finding a new way. What are your thoughts there?
For sure. It's definitely by looking at your fears and all of those 6 fears that I enumerated and said, well, why is my body reacting this way? Am I reacting this way because my life is in danger, which would be death? Is it that I'm reacting this way? My body doesn't want to go on stage. And it happens often where some individuals, men, women, they try to go on stage, their body just freezes and they're trying their best, but they just can't. And so that is a fear potentially of the critics of others. So now by understanding, okay, so this is the critics of others, then understanding what is the worst thing that can happen to me, and then dealing with the situation at an emotional level, not at a feeling level. And so that's a body reaction. There's your freezing part. Your body is trying to survive. The body is it's beautiful machine with lots of systems, and it's not meant for thriving. It's not meant for success. The body is designed for survival. And so if it registers any type of fearful situation, that it registers it from your experience or the experience of others. Based on your perception, your body will shut down, or in worst cases, shut down certain organs, which at that point, then you can develop certain types of illnesses. For example, people that don't speak up in certain relationships. And there's a healthy way of having a communication with your partner. We're not here to talk about that. It's more on the aspect of uh, putting a point across where some people have developed certain types of illnesses, body illness, as a result of not being able to communicate adequately with their partner, their boss, or their other relations that you have in your life, whether it's to their children sometimes. We see that very often with men who might be yelling at their children. And that's just a body reaction. They've learned it, like a learned behavior, and they're displaying a certain level of anger, and now we have to cut that from their life. That's not the type of behavior that a leader should display. And these fears now cause certain types of illnesses because of a body function.
Thank you for drawing attention to that. And even though it's not directly related to the listener's question, I want to pause because it's so important. In our society, I often say women are given the message that you're allowed to feel okay and joyful and sometimes a little bit sad, but not too much sad and not too much for too long. Men are given the message that they're allowed to feel okay and angry and sometimes, happy, but don't be too bubbly. Don't be too, effusive. And so when you realize that for men, sadness is cut out, big joy is often cut out and reserved for sports, not like that intimacy of a relationship where you're just ever so excited and happy to see your partner. Now that's for sissies. I don't believe this. I'm just giving you the message. And so we forget how important it is to be able to retrain ourselves to ignore the negative societal messages that tell us that we shouldn't feel sad, that we shouldn't feel angry. Angry is a really good emotion. It tells us that we feel disrespected or violated. It's how we use the anger judiciously and wisely to set boundaries. But as you're saying, many people think that yelling, raising their voice, swearing, hurting people's feelings, that's a healthy use of anger because that's what they see in movies or they saw parents do. Yet, as you're very clearly explaining, if somebody yells at me, I don't listen. I can't hear them. My body immediately goes into fight flight mode. Like, how do I get out of here? How do I keep myself safe? How do I self regulate while this person is doing their thing? I don't hear what they're saying. And I believe that it's the same for most people, if not everyone, because anger brings up this threat response. So we're not able to really be present for each other. So if in relationships we learn how to use anger to set boundaries in clear, kind, respectful ways, then we get away from that part. Whereas you're saying, you actually hurt your entire bodily system, physical health, mental health, even spiritual health, emotional health, if you're not learning to self regulate. And I know that that's an area that you're an expert in is this self regulation, because as you're saying, the body is designed. I'm going to paraphrase what you said because you said it in one of the most beautiful ways I've ever heard, that the body isn't designed for success.
Mm.
The body is designed to keep you safe. And if we look at what this listener is asking about, like, how do I get out of this box? It sounds to me like they live in whatever this box is, whether it's work, prescribed relationship, prescribed duties that make them feel safe. Yet they're not clearly not succeeding in ways that their heart, I mean, it sounds like they're really yearning to get out of that box. But then all those thoughts probably pop in, all those feelings like, oh, I'm anxious. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, I won't do it right. Oh, other people will make fun of me. Well, what's the cure, JD? What's the cure for someone whose mind is saying, and this can be, I'm not saying the person's in a dysfunctional relationship, but I work with so many people who tell me part of their stuckness is that they're in a dysfunctional relationship, whether it's a romantic partnership, a work relationship, a friendship, and they want to get out of it, but they're stuck because they're afraid that they won't have financial security, they won't have any other friends, they won't find another job, whatever it is. And I think your experience as a speaker, as an endurance triathlete, you've learned how to overcome all of these voices that tell you to be small. How did you do it?
For sure. So there are two main uh, part which join as well the listener's question. One is values before goals. So becoming a doctor, there's nothing inherently wrong with becoming a doctor. That is a goal. But if you don't have solid moral values that you live by and that you abide by them, your journey to becoming a doctor will eventually be more tumultuous than another individual that have their moral values and live by them. So anyone can use this tool, whether it's in a personal relationship. I want as a goal to have a fruitful or successful marriage that will last X amount of years. Well, if that is the case, or I want to have this relationship with an individual, then understanding that these are my values. Now, what are the values of the other person? Because as we talked about fears earlier, the person displaying and not being able to control their fear is creating the fear into others. And so, yes, we can look at the partner who is saying, well, I'm not financially secure if that partner leaves. Well, that other person also has fears and says, well, I'm the person that is uh, putting all of the money inside of the relationship and paying for everything. And so there might be some level of fear in that person, not that their fear and their love and their appreciation based on their perception is not fully received. And so that's why I say values before goals. Once you can understand your values, you can pick whatever goal you want, whether it's becoming an ultra endurance triathlete, becoming a doctor, lawyer, engineer, a mailman or mail woman, or you can become anything you want, okay? As long as you pick your values before your goals.
I really like how you set that out, and I'm going to lean into your example again. We don't know what this person wants as far as living large. It might be having a dream come true relationship. We don't know. But I 100% agree with you, because if we know, first thing we need to know our values, we also want to know our priorities. And if we're clear on our values, we can elucidate them, write them down, and say, these are my values to another person. These are my priorities. And this is what I can offer you. I'm good. I'm faithful. I'm kind. I'm honest. I'm hardworking. love life, whatever it is, right? I really value integrity. And the other person is able to say, wow, I value integrity too. I value hard work. I value nature, whatever it is. Then you have that meeting of the mind. And then who has more money? Doesn't matter, because as long as your priorities are showing and giving love and gratitude and respect, the money's the non-issue. The money is the social
The
construct.
byproduct.
It's the
Yeah.
byproduct. It's the construct that allows you to do X, Y, and Z. But if you don't have that meeting of the minds and those matching values and goals, you can have all the money in the world and you're not going to be happy, because you're not able to come to terms with whatever your fears are, right? Are you afraid that somebody loves you only for your money? Are you afraid that they want your money? What is that fear about? And then for the other person, if they're staying in a relationship that they don't love the person and they're only staying because of love, well, I'm sorry, because of money, well, what's that about? Like, why do you believe that you're not worthy of true love? So when we get into these pieces and start looking, as you said from the beginning, start looking at the fears, not just your financial fears or the old age fears, or, being too young or too old or to whatever it is, but being able to go deep and say, am I afraid of success? Am I afraid of, my parents told me I would never amount to anything? Am I afraid of breaking free of that narrative I internalized? Am I afraid of proving them wrong? Am I afraid of proving myself wrong? And when we get into all of this sticky stuff that can be really yummy to work with, of course, my profession. I'm a psychologist. I love doing this. I love putting the pieces together and exploring. It's like so much fun. And it's not just with clients. I've done it to myself. I do it to myself. I want to understand. And I want to understand so we can, learn, grow, transform. And so it sounds like you're doing this with the Hungry Warrior Academy, helping people figure out what's their block. Where can they find? I love how you also explain courage, because many people use courage and bravery interchangeably. And courage is moving forward in the face of fear. Bravery is not having the fear. And to tell you the truth, I think most of us have loads of fears, those that we recognize, those that we don't. And we're embarrassed, we're ashamed because we have fears. And my goodness, fear is part of life. It's getting through the fear to the other side. That is, if we make it fun, if we make it, as you were saying earlier, discerning, if I jump off this cliff, am I going to be safe? I mean, do I have the right equipment? Is there a team down there to catch me? Is everything going to be okay? Or do I stay back and never jump, even though I know that there is a very beautiful pool of deep water down beneath it that I can safely jump into. And I've been there literally and figuratively. It can be scary to jump. It could be so scary. But as we discern, is it really dangerous, or am I just getting held back by discomfort? It's hard to do, but it's possible. Don't you think, JD?
Definitely. That's why we have to build to it, create that strong foundation based on your values. Your values should be your system, your structure. And when we look at, we deal with tier one operators, right? Those guys are special forces guys. When these guys are going off a cliff, they understand their values are based on protecting others. That's their duty. And so, would they be able to jump off a cliff? Well, definitely, because it's based on their value system. At the moment, right now, I have to protect individuals. And so, they have the gear, they have the training, and then they jump off a cliff because they have to. It's just that for them, it's their duty. For them, a police officer, well, that's their duty. Well, why is it that a police officer in a stressful situation have to do this and sees it as a life-threatening situation, but you are not seeing your lack of courage as a life-threatening situation, as we spoke about, by hurting your systems, hurting yourself at a physiological level. You're hurting yourself by living in fear rather than in faith.
You made me speechless for a minute because my heart is so happy by something you said. I never paused to think about what you gave the example of, that for me, jumping off a cliff feels ridiculous and there's really no purpose there except to get over a fear. But when you add into the equation the piece about duty, when you feel that duty, if somebody I loved were down that cliff, my husband, one of my kids, my dog, I'd go over without a thought. A dear
Which
friend
are part of your value.
was part of my value. I wouldn't even
Yeah.
think about it. It'd be like, "Oh my god, of course." So, oh my goodness, you just gave me the biggest epiphany that it oh my goodness, thank you. That it's about finding that duty that, I call my work is both a privilege and a responsibility because that feel very deeply it's my responsibility to help others. It's my duty. And so people will often say, I remember when I worked probation and worked with sexual offenders, people would say, why would you ever do that? I was like,
Yeah.
Because it's my duty. It's like my duty. I throw whatever you want at me. It's my duty to help people who need help. I'm not going to say, oh, I'll help you, but I'm not going to help you because you scare me. And they weren't scary people, they were just individuals who needed
For
guidance.
you, they weren't scary. That's
That's
your
true.
duty, right? Yeah.
That's tr They didn't
I
know
see where
that
you're
I
going.
wasn't
Yeah, that's good,
yeah.
that's good.
Oh, but my goodness, we can really use this. I'm gonna just, embrace this concept. I love it so much because you're right. It's about and that oh my goodness, you're waking up my brain in some ways and my heart because I think that's why some people, whether it's our listeners' question, who wants a better job or a relationship, if you believe, and I think it's why there's sometimes disparity in relationships where one person's really trying hard and the other person's like, I don't really want to try hard. I would make a bet that the person who's trying hard believes it's their duty to feed that relationship, that it's one of their values to have a healthy relationship. And so for our listener who wrote in, the idea of, well, wait, look at your values, dear soul. Look at what's important to you. I think they mentioned work, home, and hobbies. You want to be a great soccer player? Lean into it. Make it part of your duty to get whatever that looks like. So you slip, you fall down, you tear your soccer shorts, whatever it is, all that stuff passes. You want, someone in your relationship who's really good and kind and healthy and supportive. You deserve that. Lean into it. You want a job where you can shine and grow. I love this, JD, because you're saying go back to your values. Go
Yeah.
back to that moral compass, that North Star or stars that guide your life and evaluate it from that perspective. Because if one of your duties, for me, one of my duties is to evolve until the day I die. I'm not so much worried about death. I'm worried about not even worried. I'm just interested in continuing to evolve. And that is such a high value to me. It is a duty that it drives me. And so for this individual, that may not be one of their values or duties. And that too is okay. But it's about making friends with it, isn't it?
Yeah. And understanding what your personal values are and duty, because not withstanding the noise of the world that is around you. For example, there's one, and it hasn't been mentioned in any podcast yet that I've seen. Many people look at, again, women in the workforce or women that go outside of the home. But what about praising the women that are giving birth and being a mother that is a stay-at-home person? Now, that there are some fear attached to it, but if and I'm not claiming it is for everybody, but I'm just saying, what if it is part of your value? And the world is not pushing this out there. They're showcasing certain, again, that might not fit your value system. But if your duty, if you were called to be a mother and to be a caring individual for your children, then that's your duty. Because I can tell you, I don't know if you've seen it in your practice, but there are some parents out there, okay, men, women, okay, that would not jump off a cliff for their children. But yet I'm hearing Dr. Carla that would jump off a cliff for her family. And so for her, it's a no-brainer for her. And then there are others that it's not part, or not that it's not part entirely, but it might be at the lower stages of the pyramid in terms of their value. And they've done lots of studies that show how individuals that are starting to date, they did a study where the first question was, "What are your values?" And and the majority of the, I don't know if you call them contestant patients or individuals that partook in that study, the majority of them were unable to answer. And that is going back to how we were created. We were created for survival. And when you are created for survival, you are not thinking about your values. You are thinking about, how do I survive in this environment? How do I survive as an individual with my family, with the people around? How do I survive? So once you're able to go back, be in a comfortable state, like you mentioned earlier, beautifully, write down your values or have this form of system, right? For me, I'm a Christian guy, so definitely it's already written for me, so thank God. But for other individual, at least go back to the drawing board, writing down, understanding your values is going back to its root so that before the storm comes, you are ready for the storm because it will. There's just not a perfect relationship that will happen with your children, with your partner, with anyone in life. If you're looking for the perfect person, I'm not apologetic about ruining all relationship to you, but if you're waiting for the perfect individual, he or she does not exist, okay? It does not
It's
exist. Even if we're saying, well, it's the perfect individual for you. Well, why is it the perfect individual for you? That is because both of your values are matching to such a high degree that statistically speaking, both individual would operate in a survival mode and still go on tracks and be able to function in a healthy relationship together because they're both following their values, and both individuals are able to not even be in the same room and understand that they are even at a vibrational level or frequency. That's because your well, we can let's remove frequencies, but we can delve into it. But you are focused directly on your values, which your values you will vibrate at that level and be able to be with this person in alignment with that person.
Thank you so much, JD, because I think the values piece, it's a really critical part. And as you said, the research shows that many people don't know their values, they don't know their priorities. And in I think it's my third book, Date Smart, I tell people, you need to know. We often go into relationships, what I want, what I want, what I want from the person. I want them to be this tall. I want them to have this kind of body, make this amount of money, and want a pet or kid, whatever it is. And we
Which is
often
all
stop
based on
there.
survival.
Yeah, that's all survival. But when we slow down and say, what are my values? Meaning, what guides me in life? And for me, just like you, I have mine written down. At the top is integrity, respect, kindness, truth, all of these things. And then down toward the bottom, there are things like, and for we might think everybody's going to put financial success at the top. Well, financial stability to me shows hard work, those things. So we might value a person who's hard work, even if they don't have, $8 billion, but we might really value hard work. That's something I also value. So when we know these, and then talk to the other person. Well, what are your values and what are your priorities? Because we often see a mismatch. Somebody will say, well, I value family, but it's fourth on my pyramid, and at the top is work. So if work is your partner's priority and family is down at fourth or fifth, and your priority is family and work is third, that's a pretty big misalignment because, as you said, for somebody, they might not value, I'm not saying they wouldn't, but they might not value a partner who
Mm,
stays at home and has that huge job, that very important job of staying home and tending to the children and the family. And I'm not saying it is the only way to do it. I say that I honor it and revere it and that there are many upsides to it. Wish I could have been, had that kind of role. I didn't, but it would have been nice. But I had a different role and I was able to juggle a lot and learn a lot. So anyway, it's about knowing those values, and I'm gonna take it one step deeper, JD, living the values, because we can write a
yes.
list. We can say, "I want a partner who's kind and respectful and has integrity and is faith-based." And the partner can say, "I also want someone who's kind, has integrity, faith-based," that whatever they might be, but we have to be living it. It is one thing to say we have a value like respect, honesty, integrity. It is another to live it day in and day out. So as we're looking at our values, we want to be able to know that we live them or are doing our best to live them. Because if we want something from someone else, but we're not doing it, like I want a partner who's faithful, but we have a history of cheating on everybody and we don't really plan on being faithful to our partner. Well, that's a mismatch. And so for our listener to be able to start here, to start looking at their values, at their priorities, regardless of what their friends are doing. Their friends may have different priorities and values.
Mhm.
So, really, I'm hearing you say we feel a lot better about ourselves and our lives when we know our values and we're living in accord with them. Is that too simplistic of a way to look at it?
That's the beauty of it is many people are talking right now online, which becomes again a lot of noise about how about uh, to overcome fear. You jump in a cold bath, or you wake up at 4 in the morning, or you eat a certain type of food, or go back to simplicity and go back to the basic. Again, our system is not built for success and thriving. We are built for survival. Go back to the basic if you don't have that. And as you mentioned, I amazingly, it's about living your in accordance with your values that will really showcase to everybody and sticking the distance as well, understanding that there's resilience, there's a certain level of discipline, and you get to radiate at a complete other level. And people, it's sad the change that you will see, and I have to warn you, okay? Viewer discretion is advised. Very often when you shift, when you don't have to shift them completely entirely, but when you live your values, I can tell you right now, you will be losing friends. You will be somewhat a bit more lonely. And that's because other people have to adjust to your values, or they might have to leave from your life. Similarly to me, I left the family homes. Now, I was coming back every year. The military was paying me to come back every year, and I would be coming back, visiting my family, and then I would going back into operations and not seeing them from almost an entire year. Now, that was an unhealthy environment. They were not in alignment with my values. That is a beautiful way of explaining that at that moment, in that particular instance, okay, we're looking at the framework of time, they were not in alignment with my values. It was unhealthy. They had to do their own journey. I removed myself from that environment, which was stressful and there's fear. but I viewed it as I will come back eventually if their values are in alignment with mine. I have a beautiful relationship with my dad. I'm viewing him. I viewed him this weekend. He lived in a different city, but I have a beautiful relationship. And I'm just talking my dad right now. We can talk about other members of my family, but let's just talk about my dad. I have a beautiful relationship with him. We see each other often. We call each other. We have a beautiful relationship. Now, do our values match? They are in alignment. And at that moment, we are able to reconcile. Now, that's not to say that we are forgetting about the past, because there's a difference between forgetting and forgiving. But again, forgiving them for that at the moment, they were unable to provide me with that level of love. And so I was able to say, this is the level of love I will give myself and also to the others. Because again, the way love operates is you are not giving love to everybody around you by not being at your full potential. That's what you have to comprehend. If you are unable to be at the highest level of frequencies that you can or radiate at your full potential, then you're depriving all the other people of your best self and of love that you could provide them, even if you don't even have to speak or do or perform an action. And so I removed myself from that environment at that moment. Okay, I'm not saying completely and cut my parents out of my life entirely. What I did was remove myself from for that period of time. And then later in life, when our values were realigned, they did the work. I had to also do some work. I was a teenager. There's a lot of to life that I was not comprehending. It's not because they gave me a gun that all of a sudden I was all of a sudden able to comprehend life. I had a journey. They had a journey. Our values aligned. And now we are giving the best to ourselves. And that's why I now am able to go on Dr. Carla's podcast and say, well, this is the love we are providing to ourselves. I have a beautiful relationship with my dad. And that's because now our values are matching and we are walking together. And so that can work for every type of relationship, whether it's marital relationship or filial, which is at the level of love with uh, a friend or coworker, or it is in terms of maybe with your children. Well, sometimes it needs a certain distance.
Absolutely. And JD, as we wrap up, I just want to jump in on one final piece and get your opinion on it, because you had said how important it is for some people to jump into a cold pool or, take a cold plunge or do a mountain bike adventure ride or, I don't know, parachute into the desert. I don't know what they're doing right now. Anyway, you get the thing.
Yeah.
And they think, and sometimes it is helpful psychologically to become more of your best self. Yet, I have also found that many people who are, high energy or adrenaline junkies, and even people who aren't, they forget that doing these little occasional adrenaline pieces are not necessarily self-growth, that a lot of the self-growth comes from much more basic endeavors, such as being willing to make eye contact and have a healthy, soulful conversation, such as being willing to withstand the anxiety about talking about things with a loved one or even going to therapist that make you feel anxious, but that are not temporary, tough guy or tough girl rewards or adventures, but they're really the more lasting reward of having the courage to do the hardest work I believe we will ever do, which is diving into the self, healing our wounds that hold us back, working on becoming more attuned, as we keep saying, to our values, living our values. That is, yes, there's an adrenaline rush when you're having a conversation that you're afraid of. And you might run and run out of the room. You might want to shut down. But to me, there is such courage. I admire my clients so much who have the courage to look at what holds them back in life, to look at their trauma, to look at their limitations in being able to have emotionally intelligent conversations and dare to go into that area. What do you think? Is that one of the hardest areas of life to work at?
Definitely. It's the battle against ourselves. We are, as I say in my practice, we are the creator of our own success, whether it's in health or finances, and it's up to a certain degree. I understand that there are other variables to the equation, but to the maximum, we are the creator of our own success. And so, going back to the basic, if you don't have a solid foundation of running, why would I teach you about breath work through running and all of these cold plunges and nutritional, which are healthy? It's part of running. But if you don't have a strong running foundation, if you don't even know the basic, then why would I teach you about other parts? And so that is where I have noticed in my practice or at the Hungry Warrior Academy, where a lot of men are failing. They don't have, because we deal with men, that's why I'm saying men, but in your practice, it would be both genders. We tend to not have it concrete or even live by our own values. So going back to the basic is crucial, understanding that you will have a strong foundation. And then now that you're able to live by then, other people will adjust to it. And if they're not ready right now, they will either adjust eventually or you will be lonely for some time because again, there are some people in the world right now that for you it was integrity. That was one of the first one that came out of your mouth when you talked about it. And so that means that there are somewhere out there individuals that value integrity as their top value, and you will merge in some capacity, somewhat like a domino effect, where it's not just the one that goes into the one, it's also all of these other numbers that, well, that one might fit, but not in line completely. So maybe integrity is a number three. Well, it's still part of my values. And so we are still able to match, be on a beautiful podcast, having a conversation. Respect is part of it. Well, respect is part of mine as well. Mine is at the top. Yours wasn't. Yours was third or fourth. But we're still able to, again, merge a beautiful conversation and be able to inspire all the listeners to, again, face their fear. It is a difficult journey, but as you talked about earlier, it's by, again, doing the difficult work that we get to achieve the top of our mountain.
And there you go. It is doing that difficult work internally first and foremost that helps us be our best selves. So, JD, oh my goodness, you have been a fabulous guest and so much fun. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you and more about your incredible work?
Sure. We are at hungrywarrioracademy.com. We do only cater to men, but I'm sure that all the women listening have either a man in their life or that they know of a man that might be in need of some work and clarity and discipline that we can help them physically, mentally, and also spiritually. And if we're not the right fit, that's also fine. So.
Well, it sounds like a good place for um for many of the men that I know where they could it sounds like it's a place to help you work on all parts of your being. Mentally, emotionally, physically, and if somebody chooses spiritually. So, my goodness, listeners, if you do not have a pen handy, if you are driving, please don't worry. All of the links for JD Tremblay and the Hungry Warrior Academy will be in the show notes. And again, regardless of your gender, this is the type of work JD is talking about, is something that we can all, I mean, I've taken away so many gifts from this episode. So, thank you, thank you, thank you, JD. It has been such a joy and a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Carla.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for being with me, with us on this journey. It is, as always, a tremendous joy and a privilege. And this is Imperfect Love.
Thanks so much for sharing your time with me today. Remember, you have the power to transform your life and love fearlessly, if imperfectly, and it's my privilege to help you along the way. You can find more life-changing content, including my books and other podcast episodes, at drcarlamanley.com. Feel free to submit your own confidential questions through my website. I'll do my very best to include your issue on a future episode. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and leave a review. Until we connect again, this is Dr. Carla Marie Manley wishing you oceans of blessings and love. Please note, this podcast is psychoeducational in nature and is not intended to replace formal mental health support. Please contact your healthcare provider or emergency hotline if you need psychiatric care. And, as always, please take good care of your amazing, wonderful self.